Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about my top 32 ranked running backs for week number 1 of the 2022 fantasy football season. Inside today's video, I'll be going in depth into each and every single running back inside of the top 32, as well as telling you guys why I have them ranked at each and every single spot. But before we could get on into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. And if you would like to follow me on Twitter, please do so at notorious FNTSY. So without further ado, let's get into my top 32 ranked running backs of week number 1. We begin with the top 10 here over on my left. And if I'm being honest with you guys, there's really no need to go crazy in depth with all these players, right? If you have a running back ranked inside of the top 10, it's a no-brainer as to why you want to start them. At number 1, I have Austin Ekeler of the LA Chargers going up against the Las Vegas Raiders at home in LA. This is a matchup that I really like for Austin Ekeler. Austin Ekeler last year up against the Raiders played really good in both matchups. Austin Ekeler is a key component in this offense, and he's going to be seeing a bunch of receiving opportunities in this matchup. I expect this to be a very high-scoring back-and-forth affair, and even though Ekeler's a running back, since he catches so many passes, that is a huge positive for him. I don't necessarily think that Austin Ekeler is a lock to finish as the number 1 running back on the week because I like Christian McCaffrey and Jonathan Taylor a lot. I think those are guys you could easily rank as the number 1 running back this week. But for me, I'm going to go with Austin Ekeler up against the Raiders. At number 2, we have who we just mentioned, Christian McCaffrey, running back of the Carolina Panthers, going up against the Cleveland Browns. Christian McCaffrey, when healthy, is basically the most dominant running back in fantasy football. If Jonathan Taylor is fully healthy, plays the same amount of games as McCaffrey, and is that same pedigree of player that he was last year, Christian McCaffrey is going to wipe the fucking floor with Jonathan Taylor because of how much involvement he has in this offense for the Carolina Panthers. The matchup up against the Cleveland Browns obviously is far from ideal, right? This isn't the best matchup, but Christian McCaffrey is so fucking good that it does not matter at all. You could put Christian McCaffrey up against the 85 Bears defense. You could put him up against the best defense ever assembled, like the goddamn Avengers, and Christian McCaffrey is still going to run train on them. So I'm very confident in Christian McCaffrey this week up against the Panthers. At number 3, we have JT, Jonathan Taylor, going up against the Houston Texans in Houston. Last year, the Indianapolis Colts absolutely butt-fucked the Houston Texans, to say it lightly. Those were blowouts in both games, and Jonathan Taylor easily just ripped the defense apart. This week should be no difference. We could see him be the number 1 running back on the week again. Would not surprise me, but for me, he is my RB number 3. At number 4, we have Derrick Henry of the Tennessee Titans going up against the New York Football Giants. Derrick Henry here is in a pretty soft matchup, in my opinion. The Giants defense is dealing with a decent amount of injuries, and Derrick Henry is so fucking good that it really doesn't matter which defense you put up against him. He is going to dominate on volume and volume alone. He is going to see so many carries in this game. I would be shocked if the Tennessee Titans try, ticking down his carries per game, right? I really don't see them doing that. He could get 30 touches in this game and it wouldn't surprise me at all. This man averaged 27.38 carries a game last season. This is a very easy matchup for him. Again, don't want to just go on a diatribe here about Derrick Henry because we all know how good he is. At number 5, we got Dalvin Cook of the Minnesota Vikings going up against the Green Bay Packers. Now, there's been a lot of chatter this offseason about the Minnesota Vikings offense looking to go a little bit more pass-heavy this season under their new head coach when compared to Mike Zimmer in the past. Now, while that might make you potentially nervous about Dalvin Cook, actually, this could be a positive because if they're throwing the ball more, the defense won't be able to load the box as many times. And if they're throwing the ball more, maybe Dalvin Cook sees more receptions. Now, Dalvin Cook, in my opinion, isn't one of those guys that most people consider as an excellent pass-catching back because he isn't given a crazy amount of opportunities like a guy like Austin Ekeler, Christian McCaffrey, or Alvin Kamara, who we're going to mention next. But when he does get the ball in his hands in space, the guy's amazing. So up against the Green Bay Packers, in what I believe could be and has the potential to be a very high-scoring game, I love Dalvin Cook. At number 6, we got Alvin Kamara of the New Orleans Saints going up against the Atlanta Falcons in Atlanta. I had some struggles trying to figure out where to put Alvin Kamara because I honestly think he could be ranked inside of the top 3 up against the Atlanta Falcons. My biggest question mark is on Michael Thomas. Now, right now, as I'm recording this video, we don't know if Michael Thomas is going to play or not. I have no idea. I would tell you that right now where I'm sitting, it's about a 75% chance that he ends up playing. That's just my opinion. There's not like a fact that, oh, the team said 75% chance. Nothing has really been said about his availability. It seems like we're going to know probably on Sunday morning. So right now, my assumption is Michael Thomas is in, and I don't think that hurts Alvin Kamara, but I think that if Michael Thomas wasn't playing, that maybe we see a couple more design plays to go towards Alvin Kamara. But again, still a very elite running back, even with Michael Thomas active or without Michael Thomas. Number 7, we have Joe Mixon, running back of the Bengals, going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is one of those classic great running backs versus a tough defense matchup. The Pittsburgh Steelers defensive front is amazing. It's very good, and Joe Mixon could struggle in this game in the past. But now, the Bengals offensive line is so much better. Now, it's not like they're the top offensive line in the NFL. I'm not saying that, but they're no longer a fucking turnstile that is going to let Joe Burrow and Joe Mixon get laid out, right? This is a much better upgraded offensive line. So I think even though the Pittsburgh Steelers defensive line is very talented, that Joe Mixon should be just fine in this game. The most confusing part about this game is that the Bengals versus the Steelers could go anywhere. It really could. This is a matchup that even though on paper the Steelers are a significantly worse team, the Steelers could still smoke the Bengals, in my opinion, because of this matchup. I still like Joe Mixon, though. Top 8 running back. And number 8, we have Aaron Jones, running back of the Green Bay Packers, going up against the Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota. We talked about this matchup a little bit ago with Dalvin Cook. I really do believe this is going to be a high-scoring game, and I believe both of these running backs will be heavily involved in this matchup. Now, I know there's a lot of people that really like A.J. Dillon, and for good reason, right? A.J. Dillon is an immensely talented player. But in my opinion, without Davante Adams, if you put a gun to my head and said, Nick, which running back is going to catch more passes this season, Aaron Jones or A.J. Dillon? I'm going to tell you that is going to be Aaron Jones. I think Davante Adams being gone opens a huge hole for Aaron Jones to fill in this offense. While he's not a wide receiver, I think he is going to be seeing a bunch of pass catching opportunities in this game and every single game of this season going forward. We are going to be seeing plays with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon on the field at the exact same time. And there's potential in any game that A.J. Dillon vultures a touchdown away from Aaron Jones. But at the end of the day, I believe he's the number 1 running back on this team, so I'll probably have him ranked in the top 10 as long as I view the matchup as being good for him, and I like this matchup up against the Vikings. At 9, we have Najee Harris, running back of the Pittsburgh Steelers, going up against the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati. Najee Harris has been kind of thrown in a fucking blender by most fantasy analysts. A lot of people were taking a deuce on this guy's chest in the offseason, knocking him down and be like, oh, I don't even know if I'd pick him at the 1-2 turn at the end of drafts. That's fucking ridiculous. I understand that Big Ben Roethlisberger is no longer there. And Big Ben dumped the ball off to this guy 19 times in a matchup last season, and that really upped his target total. But this guy is still a key piece in this offense. Under Mike Tomlin, they always use a bell cow workhorse running back. Najee Harris is the workhorse running back. Mitch Trubisky isn't necessarily some check down artist, but they're going to design plays to get Najee Harris the ball. And this offensive line can't be worse than last year, because just like the Cincinnati Bengals, this offensive line was complete and utter horseshit. It was so bad. It was embarrassing. This year, I think it's going to be better. And honestly, Mitchell Trubisky, my boy, kissing titties Mitchell Trubisky, might just be an upgrade over Big Ben. He definitely is. So I like Najee Harris as a top 10 back. Closing in on the top 10, closing out the top 10, I should say, is DeAndre Swift, running back of the Detroit Lions, going up against the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, on paper, this could be a very tough matchup for DeAndre Swift, but DeAndre Swift sees so much volume in the receiving game that even if he's getting stuffed behind the line, even if he's getting absolutely obliterated the second Jared Goff hands him the ball, Jared Goff is going to dump the ball off to him so many times that it's not going to matter. DeAndre Swift in space is excellent. We've talked about this a lot on the Fantasy Football channel this offseason. Obviously, you're watching this on the Notorious Fantasy channel, but on the Stokastic Fantasy Football channel, I talked a lot about the fact that I think that DeAndre Swift is like Alvin Kamara version 2. He's ready to become Alvin Kamara. He can see a crazy amount of targets, and that will bail you out, even if he doesn't have a great game rushing in half PPR and full PPR leagues. Sure, Jamal Williams will be involved. Sure, there's going to be points this season where Jamal Williams fucks you right in the ass. Dan Campbell subs him in. He scores the touchdown. It is what it is. There's a lot of running backs that is going to happen to. Maybe not Austin Eckler, maybe not McCaffrey, maybe not Jonathan Taylor or Derrick Henry, but once you get closer to number 10, there's not that many workhorse running backs in the NFL, but there's also not that many running backs that have the skill set in terms of receiving like DeAndre Swift does, so I like him this week a ton up against the Eagles, and what I believe will be a pretty high-scoring game. Now we move to running backs 11 through 20, headlined by running back Leonard Fournette, Uncle Lenny of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, going up against the Dallas Cowboys in Jerry's World. Now, there's a whole lot of news surrounding around Tampa Bay Tom Brady right now. There's talk about Giselle divorcing this man, that she's pissed off, that Tom Brady came back out of retirement. What does this woman expect? She married Tom Brady. This man is a workaholic. This man eats fucking avocado toast every single day. He probably hasn't drank a soda since he was 7 years old. Okay? He's on the TB12 diet. What does she expect? I don't know. But what I expect is Tom Brady to be completely unfazed. I don't think this is going to get to Tom Brady at all. People are like pissing themselves over this. Don't worry. Don't worry. Don't worry at all. Uncle Lenny up against the Dallas defense. Sure, this isn't the greatest matchup. Uncle Lenny is the clear workhorse running back on this team. Sure, they have Rachaad White. And sure, there's been talks about limiting Leonard Fournette's touches. Is that going to happen? In my opinion, no. We'll see in week 1. If that does happen, then next week I'll move Uncle Lenny down the rankings. But as of right now, based on what we saw out of Leonard Fournette last year, you have to have him ranked as a top 12 running back, especially in a matchup that could be going back and forth. And Leonard Fournette is pretty involved in the receiving game of the offense. Next up, we move at number 12 to James Conner of the Arizona Cardinals, going up against the Kansas City Chiefs at home in Arizona. Here we have a running back who wildly destroyed his expectations last year with Chase Edmonds. I believe in a lot of drafts, Edmonds last season was going ahead of James Conner. Now Edmonds is gone in Miami. He's actually ranked a little bit lower in this video, going up against New England. But James Conner here up against Kansas City. I understand that this man scored a ridiculous amount of touchdowns last year, and I understand that when you score a lot of touchdowns, you're going to score a lot of points in fantasy. But even if the touchdowns decrease, I don't think he's going to go from scoring potentially close to 20 touchdowns to scoring like 6 touchdowns. I don't think that's going to happen. But the touchdowns are bound to go down. Even with that said, though, I think without Chase Edmonds, the receiving volume will be stronger in this offense, and the running backs behind him, I don't really see competing for that pass-catching role like we saw last year with Chase Edmonds behind him. So James Conner is a pretty talented pass-catching back as well, and I expect his utilization in this offense to be one of those workhorse running backs up against Kansas City. This is going to be an excellent matchup. This is probably my favorite matchup to watch on the week, besides my Dolphins matchup, of course, because I'm a fan of the Dolphins, but non-bias, I like the Arizona versus Kansas City Chiefs matchup. The Arizona Cardinals are projected to lose this game. I believe the spread right now is Kansas City -5.5 or -6, depending on what book you are looking at. So James Conner is going to be down in this game, which could provide a negative game script for him. But the team does want to run the ball, and they're likely to potentially be without Rondale Moore. They're not going to be with DeAndre Hopkins. So they're going to have to throw the ball somewhere, and James Conner could be that guy. At 13, we got Saquon Barkley of the Giants going up against the Les Titans in Tennessee. I think Saquon Barkley could potentially have a big year. He could hop in the time machine and go back a couple of years to when everyone was considering Saquon Barkley to be a top 5 fantasy pick, when Saquon Barkley was one of the best running backs in the NFL. Will it start week 1? Probably not up against the Tennessee Titans, because on paper, this is a rough matchup. But Saquon Barkley is the clear workhorse. He's going to see so much volume. If he is that good player, if he is that top 5 running back that some people might believe he is, if he goes back to being that guy, then he's going to play decently against Tennessee. I don't have him ranked inside the top 12 because of the matchup. But in the next coming weeks, when he maybe has a softer matchup, Saquon Barkley could even eclipse to be a top 5 running back in my rankings. At number 14, we move to Javonte Williams, running back of the Denver Broncos, going up against the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle. Now, earlier on in the offseason, everyone was banging the drum for Javonte Williams besides me. I was saying, you know what? Javonte is an excellent player. The fact that they brought back Melvin Gordon should make you a little bit nervous, okay? I'm not saying don't draft Javonte Williams a couple months ago. All I was saying, was you should be at least somewhat cautious and have, at least in the back of your mind, be thinking there is a chance that Melvin Gordon screws everything up. Now, we're at week 1. There's talk of this being a 55-45 split in favor of Javonte Williams. Now, the Denver Broncos offense could be so good with Russell Wilson that even a 55% split share, snap share in Javonte Williams' favor could elevate him to finish top 12. But I think it hurts his upside of being a top 5 league winner level back. Now, going up against Seattle, 55% snaps, who cares? Because he's playing Seattle. This game has the potential to be an easy blowout. Denver could just absolutely skull fuck Seattle and get back out of there on Monday night, go back home to Denver. Could be very easy. And they could be up by so much that they just run the ball right after kickoff in the second half. They could just run the ball a million times. So Javonte Williams, good play. I like him. And I'm very interested to see what happens with Melvin Gordon, because if this is a 55-45% split, then maybe you start Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon every single week. At 15, we have my boy 9-inch Nicholas Chubb of the Cleveland Browns going up against the Carolina Panthers in Carolina. This is a game that I want to be watching for fantasy football purposes because the Browns really intrigue me. I understand without Deshaun Watson, they might be awful, but I want to be seeing is Amari Cooper, who we're going to talk about in the wide receiver video, going to be force-fed the ball at a crazy target share like we saw with Cooper Kupp last night, who just saw a crazy amount of targets compared to everyone else? Or is it going to be close? Is Nick Chubb going to be the guy, or are they going to roll in Kareem Hunt like I think they will, and maybe they get down, and then they have to start throwing the ball? Chubb is just useless, and Hunt is in the game. I think that is also very possible. Nick Chubb's a guy that I didn't really like this offseason. I talked about him as a guy that if he falls to late second, early third, I'll take him. I'm not elated to have him on my team because I don't see him having top 5 upside, but I do think he's not going to bust because he's probably just going to finish as running back 13 through 16 every week. You have him in your lineup. He doesn't necessarily win you a week, but he also doesn't screw you over. That's just kind of how I think of my man, 9-inch Nicholas Chubb. At 16, we have Travis Etienne, running back of the Jacksonville Jaguars, going up against the Washington Commanders. I almost said the Washington football team in Washington for about 7 fans. That'll show up to that one. Travis Etienne, there's a lot of worry right now about James Robinson because, James Robinson's going to play week 1. If you honestly fucking believe what you saw last night with Cam Akers, if you saw that and you were like, oh my God, what happened to Akers? He fucking tore his Achilles. He tore his Achilles. What happened to James Robinson? He tore his Achilles. I like James Robinson late in drafts because I think 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks into the season, maybe James Robinson is a league winner. Maybe James Robinson, that deep into the season, takes over for Etienne because James Robinson, in my opinion, put him head-to-head with Etienne, I think he's a better player. I do. But week 1, if you think James Robinson is going to get 8 or more touches, you are smoking the loud. And I want whatever you're fucking smoking. Did you guys see that picture on Twitter where someone was smoking a blunt and the thing looked like it was Pack-a-Punch from Call of Duty? The shit was purple. That's what people are smoking who think that James Robinson is going to even do a single fucking thing in week 1. Now, not only I don't like to yell in these videos, I don't like to sound like Stephen A. Smith fucking yelling at Skip Bayless, but it sounds stupid. I don't understand why the fuck anyone thinks that James Robinson is going to do anything. It's Travis Etienne time. For now, the Washington Commanders are without Chase Young. Travis Etienne is in a very good spot. He's going to catch a bunch of passes. I like Etienne this week. At 17, we got Elijah Mitchell of the 49ers going up against the Chicago Bears in Chicago. Elijah Mitchell is one of the most polarizing players in fantasy football this year, in my opinion. Because, the devil on your shoulder will tell you, Kyle Shanahan, this is no bueno. Kyle Shanahan is going to use any running backs. He doesn't give a shit about Elijah Mitchell. Then the Angel says, Elijah Mitchell's probably the best running back on this roster, and he could keep the job and be amazing for the whole season. So I'm kind of in the middle right now. I'm going to play him week 1 because I think week 1 he's the guy. Once he's not the guy, then I'll tell you, we'll pivot to the other guy. But for now, we're going with Elijah Mitchell up against the soft Chicago defense as a top 24 back. At number 18, we have AG Antonio Gibson of the Washington Commanders going up against Jacksonville. I didn't like Antonio Gibson at all in the fantasy drafting process. Brian Robinson sadly gets shot. Now Antonio Gibson is in a legitimately amazing situation to have an amazing year until Brian Robinson comes back. And who knows if when Brian Robinson comes back, he'll be fully healthy. So, Antonio Gibson, this week against Jacksonville, I've got him ranked in the top 20. If I'm being honest with you, I find it hard to play him, though, because I think he's not very good. I don't think he's very good. I just think the situation he is in is now very good for him. So that's why he's in the top 20. And to be honest with you, between Etienne, Mitchell, Gibson, Edmonds, Edwards-Helaire, if you ask me on Sunday, Nick, do you want to start Elijah Mitchell or do you want to start Antonio Gibson or Clyde Edwards-Helaire? I might tell you Clyde Edwards-Helaire because these guys are all so close in my brain. They are so close for me that it's almost hard to give a very stern answer on which one I really do prefer. I'm just letting you guys know that right now. So after Gibson, 19 is Chase Edmonds, running back of the Miami Dolphins, going up against the Patriots. I am very much in the boat, the bandwagon, that Chase Edmonds is the clear number one back on this team, and I feel like Mike McDaniel has basically hinted at that. Now, I know Raheem Mostert is going to be used, and there's probably going to be games where you're pissed at Edmonds because Raheem Mostert gets one dump off or a pitch, and the guy's so fucking fast that he just takes it to the crib, and it's going to be quite annoying. But, and this is a big but, fucking Mia Malkova, Chase Edmonds is still good. He's the number one back on the team. Talked about him with James Conner. He has good pass catching abilities. So, up against New England, this is going to be a close game in my book. I'm a Dolphins fan. I want a blowout. I want to bend Bill Belichick over and fuck him without the use of lube. But, in terms of football, not in real life. But, if I'm being honest, I think this game's going to be close. I think running is going to be a key piece in this Dolphins offense. So I think Edmonds is going to be crucial in this game. And I think he finishes as a top 24 back, closing in the top 20 before we pivot to running backs 21 through 30. And then we do running backs 31 and 32. We got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, running back of the Kansas City Chiefs, up against the Arizona Cardinals in Arizona. Now, there's going to be a lot of people that are nervous about CEH because the Pacheco stuff. There's a lot of running backs on this team. There's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. But in my book, Edwards-Helaire, this is his last shot. One last ride for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. If he sucks this year, then he's probably done with Kansas City soon, and he's not going to be drafted by my fantasy team. I have been someone in the past that was strongly against Clyde Edwards-Helaire early on in fantasy drafts. I definitely took him in some mock drafts in the past, but I was never someone that was screaming to the mountaintops, you must draft CEH. Now, when he fell all the way balls deep into these drafts, I'm saying take him. Take him because I think that this team's going to be good. I think he's going to be the number one back. And I think that after everyone's counted him out, now is when you get him at a value. So you're not paying that first or second round price. And he could be a top 12 back. Now, again, not saying he will be, but I like this matchup. I think Mahomes is going to want to be giving the ball to Edwards-Helaire. And I think this is the game where we really see what happens because this is a perfect game environment for CH. Perfect. So let's see. Let's see. Is Edwards-Helaire going to step up to the fucking plate and hit a home run? Or is he going to strike out on 4 pitches? Or 3 pitches, I guess, would be the better way to say it. We'll see. I'm still riding with Clyde, though. I think he could have a pretty solid game. But before we move on into running backs 21 through 30, I would like to give you guys a quick word from our friends, our sponsor over on Underdog Fantasy. They've been on your screen this whole entire video. Underdog Fantasy, they're known for their best ball tournaments in the offseason, right? You've heard about Best Ball Mania 3, $2 million to first place. Well, that is closed because the regular season has already started. But they offer weekly best ball contests as well. The contest that I would suggest to you guys is the Battle Royale for week number 1. 45,324 entries, $200,000 in total prize money, $40,000 to first place, and all you got to do is start 1 quarterback, 2 wide receivers, 1 running back, a tight end, and a flex. It is incredibly fun, these drafts, so if you want to do that, make sure you guys check that out. And they also have higher or lowers, player props. For instance, we talked about Derrick Henry. I don't know his exact line, say 88.5 rushing yards. Do you like the over or the under? And then you can create a card with a couple of those picks and make some money. So make sure you guys do check out Underdog Fantasy. Make sure you use promo code Stokastic for that $100 first match deposit bonus. So if you deposit $100, you receive an additional $100. Let's get back on into the video here. Running backs 21 through 30, headlined by David Montgomery of the Chicago Bears versus the San Francisco 49ers. And to be honest with you, saying headline is kind of disgusting because I don't like David Montgomery at all this week. The problem is David Montgomery is incredibly safe. I know that I don't think he's going to score 20 points, but I also feel like David Montgomery is not going to take you out back and shoot you in the back of the head like you're Lenny staring at fucking rabbits in Of Mice and Men. I don't think that is what is going to happen. I think he's going to be all right. I don't think he's going to win you your week. I also don't think he's going to have a really bad game. So David Montgomery up against San Francisco, running back 21. I honestly hate the fact that I might have to play him, but he'll be just okay. Running back 22, A.J. Dillon of the Packers going up against the Minnesota Vikings. A.J. Dillon, we talked about him before, so we're not going to go crazy into him, but there is still that chance that I'm wrong. I'm wildly off, and A.J. Dillon is that guy. A.J. Dillon surpasses Aaron Jones as like the clear back. He's catching these passes, and then I say, oh, I was wrong. Move A.J. Dillon up. I'll say that, but we're in week 1. So I'm going to go with what I've thought all offseason and put Dillon as a solid back. Right? He's solid RB2, back and RB2 with value to score a touchdown, have a pretty solid game. But again, I just don't really see him being a top 12 back this week, but we shall see. At 23, we got my main man, Damien Pierce of the Houston Texans going up against the Colts. This is a tough matchup, but Shaquille Leonard is not going to be playing in this game, which I think does give a slight boost potentially, like maybe Pierce won't get laid out in this one. I think Pierce is the 3-down back here. I think Pierce is going to be catching passes. Could be off. We could be seeing sexy Rexy Burkhead in the game. We could. Definitely could. But I'm still riding with my guy Pierce. I liked him all off season. This matchup's far from ideal, so that's why he's closer, running back 24. But I think he's still a start-worthy back. 24, Rashad with 2 A's Penny of the Seattle Seahawks going up against the Denver Broncos. This matchup stinks. This matchup is awful. But Pete Carroll plays football like it's 1950, baby. Hand the ball off. Losing by 32. Russell Wilson is skull-fucking my team. Hand the ball off. Rashad, come here. Hand the ball off. Rashad Penny, not this crazy pass catcher, but seems like Kenneth Walker isn't going to play. What are they going to do? Dump the ball off to Travis Homer? Probably not. They're just dump the ball off a couple times to Penny. You don't really want to let Geno Smith dictate this game so early on. They're going to want to run until it gets so bad to where they're going to have to pass, but Pete Carroll's so much of a dumbass that they'll still run. So Rashad Penny, just going to get a lot of volume, so I like him. 25, Josh Jacobs of the Las Vegas Raiders up against the LA Chargers in LA. This Chargers defense looks very legit. I really liked Josh Jacobs a couple of months ago, but then something clicked in my brain, like one of those, you ever seen a TV show or like a cartoon and the light bulb goes on above your head? I had one of those moments, and I started thinking, Jacobs is good. Jacobs, realistically, if there's a different coach, what they're going to do is they're going to run the ball aggressively with Jacobs, give him 1 million carries. They didn't bring him. They're not going to bring him back. Let him go after that. Run him into the dirt. Let him go. Then they bring in the new heir to the throne. Maybe Zamir White is that guy. But the more I start thinking about it, I start thinking this is going to be a running back by committee. And while I think Jacobs will be the number 1 in this committee, the fact that it's a committee, you don't want that for fantasy. So that's how I'm reading this for week 1. Could it be a situation where they just run this motherfucker into the dirt 1 million times? Maybe. But that's just not how I see it right now. 26, we got Zeke up against Tampa Bay. Zeke struggled mightily against the Bucs last time out. Thursday Night Football week 1. It was bad. Now it's Sunday Night Football week 1. He was awful. He was awful. He literally looked like he was running in fucking molasses or on like quicksand or something. He could not move the ball. But he's still the running back number 1 on the team. And maybe things are different this time. Now, he wasn't banged up last year at that point. He played the whole season banged up, basically. But at that point, week 1, he was fully healthy. That was the healthiest you would have seen Zeke last year was in week number 1. So, I don't want to start him. I don't. But in a lot of situations, you're going to have to. And I think he's still a good enough player. I think he still has just a little bit of juice left to where he could be good this year. But this matchup, no bueno. No bueno. For Zeke, 27, we got Cordarrelle Patterson of the Atlanta Falcons going up against the New Orleans Saints. Now, Cordarrelle Patterson, his ranking is going to probably be wildly different in week number 2. If Cordarrelle Patterson is the clear number 1 running back on the team, and he also is catching a bunch of passes, he's going to keep moving up and up and up and up until maybe he reaches the top 12. Or he's going to go down because he's not the number 1 running back. They're using Algier. They're using Williams. And then maybe he's trying to catch passes, but maybe Mariota sucks donkey cock at throwing the ball. And then boom, Cordarrelle Patterson gets thrown out of here. Now again, I don't want to overreact off of week 1, right? There's already people that had Cam Akers, fucked them over, and they panicked immensely. I would too about Akers. But maybe another example, Dawson Knox. Doesn't play well. They just paid him $1 zillion. He's going to be fine. So don't overreact completely to week 1. But I think Patterson's role will be very telling in week 1 what is going to actually be happening with him. And if he does kind of be the number 2 receiver on this team behind Drake London and then obviously Kyle Pitts, then Patterson at RB 27, like he can move up easily into the top 24. He was amazing last year because they had no other people to give the ball to. Now they have a little bit more on the team. So that's kind of just how I see things with Patterson. I think he is start worthy though. This week, 28, we move to Kareem Hunt of the Cleveland Browns going up against the Carolina Panthers. Again, we're going to see. Are they going to just ride with Chubb? Or when they get down in the game, they're going to take Chubb out, they're going to throw to Hunt. Because I can tell you right now, if they're down in games and throwing to Hunt, you want Kareem Hunt in your lineup. Because they're going to be down in a lot of games because Jacoby Brissett is not good. Jacoby Brissett is very, 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 very to the 50th power bad. He's awful. He can't play. You ever seen that Stephen A. Smith? He can't play. That's basically what Kareem Hunt can play. But Jacoby Brissett's not very good. Probably the worst starting quarterback in the league besides Geno Smith. So Kareem Hunt, I'm going to play him this week. Again, not overly excited. He's pretty close to running back 32, but I do think he provides a pretty safe floor because of his receptions. 29 and 30. We got the 2 New England running backs going up against the Miami Dolphins defense in Miami. Now, in the last couple of years, this Dolphins secondary was amazing, but the front couldn't stop the run worth anything. I literally think I could have subbed in some of these games against the Dolphins and ran for 3 yards. Now, that's not impressive, right? Not very impressive to run for 3, maybe 1 yard. But that's just, if I could get 1 yard on the Dolphins' run defense, that's how shit they were. Okay? They just weren't good. Now, does that mean the Dolphins' run defense this year is going to be awful? No. But Brian Flores is gone, but the D coordinator wants to run the same system as Flores. That system was getting plowed with no lube by the run. So Harris and Stevenson could have a good game here. I want to see the running back rotation in week 1. I want to see, how are they using Harris? How are they using Stevenson? Is it what I think it could be, which is Harris drive 1, Stevenson drive 2, then Harris, Stevenson, and they keep flicking in and out? If that's the case, then both of them could be valuable. So that's just kind of how I see things. Week 1, I'm a little cautious with those 2. Final running backs here, Melvin Gordon up against Seattle. In Seattle, again, this running back split is also something I want to be paying attention to, because if it really is that close split and the Denver Broncos are very close in these games, right? They're winning these games, then Melvin Gordon could see a whole lot of value in fantasy football, especially where he got him in like the 9th or 10th round in a lot of drafts. Closing out the video with Michael Carter, running back of the New York Jumbo Jets, going up against the Baltimore Ravens. Now, a report came out today from the offensive coordinator of the Jets that basically said that Michael Carter is the heartbeat of the team. Do I believe that? No. But could Michael Carter be more valuable than Breece early in the season? Yes. I didn't like Breece Hall. I think he's a great player. I think the situation is awful. I think towards the end of the year, he's going to probably be potentially a league winner because he's going to take over. But early on, for maybe the first 6, 7, 8 games, if this team really wants to roll with Carter, that is going to destroy Breece Hall, which is exactly why you don't see Breece Hall ranked inside the top 32 and you see Michael Carter ranked inside the top 32. Again, not must starting Michael Carter, but if you're in a deeper league, you can certainly play him. So let me know down below in the comment section any questions you guys have. And I don't know if I mentioned it, but the reason why there's no Thursday Night Football players in this video is because it's recorded on Friday. So there's no reason to rehash the fact that Cam Akers was absolute dog shit. Like, there's no reason to throw him in the rankings because he was awful compared to where people had him ranked. I didn't like him this week, but he played awful. So let me know down below in the comment section what you guys thought. I love you guys all so much. Hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. Make sure you use promo code Stokastic on Underdog Fantasy. It helps me out a ton. So I love you guys. Hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, good boy!